things like drugs and stuff like that, I'd feel a tremendous amount of guilt.
What happens when a man who's killed his own parents gets the best defense money can buy? It sounds like a nightmare, but it's very much happening right now. You've probably heard of Nick Reiner, right? The man who, despite a string of unfortunate events and a history of personal destruction, is now being represented by one of the most high-profile criminal defense lawyers in the country, Alan Jackson. The guy charges $2,000 an hour, but the bigger question is, how did Nick afford this kind of representation? I know, at first it didn't make sense to me either. I mean, let's be honest, Nick isn't exactly the type of guy you'd picture with such a prestigious lawyer. This is a guy who's known for ruining his life, failing rehab, and showing up to Hollywood parties in sweatpants. But guess what? This whole situation is more complicated than you think. Here's what I've discovered in my deep dive over the last few days. It turns out Nick may have a way of affording this lawyer after all, and it's not as far-fetched as you might think. First of all, let's talk about Alan Jackson. He's one of the most expensive criminal defense attorneys out there. But what would motivate someone like him to take on Nick's case? Well, it could have something to do with Nick's family. That's right, there's a theory that Nick's parents may have left him a massive inheritance. Think $200 million. But here's the catch. California law prohibits anyone from inheriting from someone they've killed. So what does that mean for Nick? Well, if he's found guilty of killing his parents, he wouldn't be able to touch that money. But it's not a done deal yet. Now, some people might argue that he could still get access to the money despite the law, but here's another angle. If Nick didn't get his hands on the inheritance, what if his siblings footing the bill for his legal fees? Yeah, you heard me right. But there's a twist. Remember Nick's sister? She's the one who discovered their parents' bodies with stab wounds and slit throats. After calling the police, she immediately pointed the finger at her brother. Could someone who accused her own sibling of murder really be the one funding his legal defense? That doesn't add up, right? It's pretty wild to think about, but there's still a chance that his siblings are involved. Either way, this all leads to one conclusion. Nick has money, and he's got a lot of it. Whether it's from his parents' estate or his siblings, Nick Reiner is in a position to live very comfortably regardless of what happens in court. So if you think prison will be a nightmare for Nick, think again. With his fortune, he's likely to live a life far better than most inmates. In fact, he could potentially live better inside prison than outside. You want to know how? Let me break it down. Imagine being in a California state prison where most people are just trying to survive. But with money, you get to pay off the right people, namely gang leaders and other influential figures in the prison system. What does that get you? Safety, comfort, and yes, even luxuries that most people in prison could only dream of. Whether it's better food, extra privileges, or protection, money can make it all happen. Now, some of you might be thinking, but he's a murderer. They'll never let him live easy. But here's the truth. Most of the people in prison are there for serious crimes too. Robbery, drugs, violence, you name it. Nick's crime? Sure, it's horrific, but it's nothing that the other inmates haven't seen before. And if Nick has enough money to grease the right palms, his prison experience might just be better than yours. But that's not even the worst part. With this kind of access, Nick could even have a personal life inside prison. Yes, you heard me right. From drugs and alcohol to cell phones and even relationships with staff, prison life can be more comfortable than you think. Money can make prison life more comfortable than freedom itself. So where does that leave us? Nick's future is still uncertain, but if his access to money continues, he'll likely be just fine. Whether he's in a mental institution or a high-security facility, he's not going to have a hard time surviving. But the real question is, will he ever face true consequences for what he's done? And how long will this bizarre situation go on before it all catches up with him? And that, my friends, is the reality of how the system works when you've got money, influence, and a lawyer like Alan Jackson on your side. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but this is the world Nick Reiner is living in right now. But what do you think? Is money the key to survival even behind bars? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.